well, guess who? It's Mallet with Kyler. So in this video, we'll be going over reading sheet music and sight reading, a big component of music. So I'll try to break this down in the best way I can, but I'll still try to keep it straightforward. So let's go over some light review. How do we read these notes on the paper? So let's start off on a treble clef set. So it'll look like this, and another popular one would be a bass clef. But in today's video, we'll just be going over treble clef. So we can look at the notes on the lines from bottom up, and we can read it as E, G, B, D, F. And the acronym I learned it from would be Every Good Boy Does Fine. But feel free to create your own or use another one that you already know. And then we can also look at the notes in between these lines. Bottom up, we can see how it is F, A, C, E. So we can look at these notes and figure out which bar to play on the mallet instrument. So now that we have the light review of that, let's break it down from sight reading. So from what I learned, the most important thing is to not get lost. Don't get lost in your sheet music as you play. And then after that, you want to focus on rhythm, making sure you're playing the right speed, BPM, making sure you're playing the notes and the correct rhythm. But, after you get rhythm and timing right, we can start to think about the notes, making sure we're playing the right notes and the right key. And then after that, we can start thinking about the tone, make sure it sounds the correct style. And you might be wondering, what do you mean by correct style? Well, when you're playing music, there's different styles like jazz, Latin, and all those other ones, pop, whatever, different genres. So you kind of want to look in how do those styles sound. So some notes on mallet instruments do have labeled on the bars. So like, on the note C, there might be a little sketching of C on the bottom of it. And I mean, I used it a good amount of times when I first started playing, maybe too much. But just make sure if you use it, don't rely on it too much. And then as we're reading, if you see a note right in the middle of the lines, make sure to start towards the middle of the instrument. And, the higher you go, move to right, lower to left, blah, blah. You know that idea. So I mentioned this in some of my other videos, but octaves. So we can see how there's multiple of these same notes, but one may be higher or lower than the other. So I mean, they're the same, but not the same pitch. So octaves are exactly 12 bars apart. Notes from A through G, sharps, flats. So let's look at one octave, and then we'll see how far is two octaves. See how they're the same note, but can be spaced apart. So while reading, you want to make sure to pay attention to those octaves as we play them. So let's think of an example. So we can see how there's, music notes written out, maybe B, D, and E. And, maybe in your brain, you kind of think B, D, E, cool. You can maybe assume they're just going upwards. Maybe just because, based off the alphabet. But be careful. Maybe one of them is lower than the other just because it's on a lower octave. And it's a mistake that even I make sometimes today. And you just got to make sure to notice it whenever you can, making sure you're playing the right note and right octave. So with that, we can combine all of these concepts together and set ourselves up for success when sight reading. Apart from, sight reading itself, some of the biggest things is that first minute, 30 seconds, or however long you have before you sight read it. We kind of want to identify all the things we can. So we want to look, identify the key signature, time signature, beats per minute, and really think about the style before we play. And of course, these can be identified just by, looking at the top of your page before playing. So picking these things out are huge for success. And once you have that, you can begin to scan through the music, maybe looking at tougher rhythms, or if there are notes that, you need to be conscious about. Maybe something that's really high or low for you that you have to reach more than the other. So remember, in sight reading, it's not about how perfect you play, but more about, just trying to keep the rhythm going and make sure to not get lost. So my teacher always emphasized to me and my classmates, just keep playing, even if it's the wrong note or rhythm. All you gotta do is just not get lost. Play whatever notes you want, miss some rhythms, but just don't lose that beat and wherever you are. So with that, here's your basic guide to sight reading and understanding some basic notation. I hope this at least sort of makes sense and maybe even a refresher to some of you. And if it doesn't, make sure to ask someone, look online, or drop a question down below. I'll even provide some online resources that I'll link in the description and have been included in other videos. But with that, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell, and don't forget, stop chewing gum in class.